Hey Alice, how you doing, mate?
Hi, fine, fine. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
So the first place I think that's always best to start with these things is just tell us about your story with OP and tell us how it all began.
Okay, so I think it's quite long story because well, first of all, I've been always doing a lot of sports. I've been racing as an athlete. I mean doing athletics. So I was running long distances when I was of course much younger than I'm now. But I continued. I kept running all my life. Actually, even when I quit my kind of racing career. And I have to say that, and it's maybe important that a couple of years ago I had a stress fracture in my pelvic bone, which was completely out of sudden because before that I never had any sport injury or really kind of minor. So I was like 10 years without any sport injury. I thought I'm almost unbreakable, you know. But when this happened, it was a big surprise, and of course I couldn't kind of accept that something is going wrong. It took quite a long time before they made the diagnosis because they didn't know what it is. The pain was kind of in a glute area, and it was really quite strong pain, which stopped me running. I couldn't even walk, into stairs, and it was really quite hard. So okay, so when the diagnosis finally was made after 2 months of treating me for something completely else, I was 3 months without running, and it gradually healed. So altogether, it took like maybe 4 or 5 months from complete, strong pain to complete healing without any pain. And then I again started to run, gradually, of course, and I was, trying to be cautious as well, but okay. And then after like because it happened like 4 years ago, so a year ago from now, I trained for half marathon, and it was not, of course, my first half marathon. I had a couple of them before, so I just was training for this one, and I had some other minor injuries in this training time, like some, pain in my leg or in my plantar, area. So it was a minor, but maybe played some role as well in the kind of biomechanical, movements and setting. But when I was training for this half marathon, I actually started to feel pain in my groin, which I didn't know what was it, and I thought maybe it's from some kind of these circuit trainings because I was also going for these workouts, and some of these were quite hard, really. So I was sore all over, and but the problem was that when the soreness went away, it stayed, in my groin area. So I didn't know what was it. And actually, the problem was that unlike the previous injury, which was the stress fracture, this one didn't stop me really from doing any sport. It was just very unpleasant in some, of course, in some movements, like when I unexpectedly slided my leg, or I was doing some unexpected movements which actually involved groin area, and of course during the running. But the other problem was that it was at the beginning of my run, but when I kind of warmed up, it was better. So at the end of the run, I felt like I have almost no pain. Of course, when I again cooled down after my workout, it started to hurt even more. Yeah. So and it went like that for months. So actually, I had this problem almost a year. Yeah. But then uh, what actually, and I've always thought there's some strained muscle, or just something which needed kind of more rest than I allowed actually myself, because my rest was like 1 or 2 days max, and then and I didn't want to go again to like 4 months of doing nothing from my previous experience from the stress fracture. So actually I didn't have much rest. And but then when I was doing some, even, and I have to say that I didn't go to this half marathon because I thought I couldn't do this training properly, so I just skipped that. and I was also doing cross country skiing. And after some kind of very, I would say, quite difficult weekend when I was going like over 60 kilometers on my on the skis, and 2 days in a row, the pain was quite bad, you know. So that was the moment when I said, okay, I have to go to doctor. But the doctors first didn't know what is it, and the diagnosis again took like another month. You know, they I went to various types of doctors, but nobody knew exactly what it was. And then finally, because I'm working in the medical field, so I said, okay, MRI is the best tool to diagnose this, because it's always the best tool, or many cases best tool for diagnosis sports injury. So I, made an appointment for MRI, and they diagnosed osteitis pubis, something completely new for me. I didn't know about it, so I read some articles about it and I started to search how can I treat it. And I went to orthopedist, one, second one, and nobody actually was doing or was giving me a kind of good answer and good plan, because they always said like rest, yes, rest, rest. And I thought it's strange, just resting. There must be some biomechanical cause why this happened. Yes, it's not just overtraining, because I knew my body, and I was not overtrained in that case. Yes, I knew it was I was doing my standard kind of workout, so it was not something extra. But yeah, maybe there was something, but in general, I thought there's some biomechanical problem. So then I found you on the internet. So that was actually the first time when I thought someone is paying more attention to the cause and to the treatment and to explanation how this can happen. And that's how I actually contacted you. So my pain lasted almost a year. Yes, it didn't stop me from any sport, because it was not so intensive and so painful that I would not overcome that. But it was very unpleasant, and I know that if I would go further, the consequences would be even bigger, because there can be some really problems, some really, I mean, problems like arthritis of this, arthrosis of this joint in the pubic bones, and I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
It's funny you talk about the cross country skiing, because it's funny with OP. I always say like OP, bad athletes don't get OP. You have to be strong enough and fit enough and determined enough to break your pubic bone. It's like you have to actually push hard enough to get there. So it's not an injury of like lazy people who sit at desks. It's always an injury of people who have like pushing their bodies and want to do more. And it doesn't matter if they're elite athletes or not, but it's like their body is here and they expect themselves to be of a higher standard, and then they go and cross country ski for 60 k's or 120 k's in 2 days. Then it really
Yeah.
starts to complain.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like, because obviously you coming from a medical field, so like you have the capacity to look up articles and to read them and understand them. Like you can read them;
Yeah.
they're not in a foreign language to you. You can, and it is scary as someone who's gone through that process as well. How much time is spent? Like they really spend a lot of time diagnosing it, like trying to like so much of the research is about what is the best way to diagnose OP.
Yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
100% right. There's not a lot of talk about what's the actual mechanism that causes this. Whereas if you think about
Right.
if you research how does cancer attack, like, they want to know the mechanism. How is it getting in the cells? How is it spreading? How is it doing, what it's doing to kill people? There's not a
Uh-huh.
lot of any research going, well, how does this condition actually work? How does it go from its beginning stages to its worsening stages? There isn't a
Right.
lot of research. Even if you do have the ability to read and understand it, you're not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily as an expert in a better position than just the average person who's not working in the medical field to actually grasp this condition and necessarily get on top of it, because there just isn't the information out there, which is
Yes.
scary.
It is, yes. It's absolutely scary, because, as I told you, I went to a couple of orthopedists and even sports doctors, and I cannot say, I cannot tell that there would be a kind of into that problem. The orthopedists are completely where, or at least in my case, they were really just kind of conservative treatment. It meant just rest, and that's it, and come in 3 months. So it was not an answer for me, because I was expecting some rehab, at least some rehab. If they would recommend me rehab, fine, but they didn't do that. So I was really, I was not satisfied with this approach. And even the sport doctor was not. He was better, of course. He recommended some physio, uh, and I went there before we contacted each other. But I again saw that the physio is completely out of the problem. I mean, they were, it was the exercises were. I cannot imagine that if I would exercise that something would improve. I could do it probably another year again, and nothing would
It's
change. So
it's funny you say that. I had a client once who basically had been given some physio exercises, and one of them was a plank, right? And so he like to him it made sense. My core must be weak. So he like built up, could hold a 2 minute plank, still had OP. Built up, could hold a 4 minute plank, still had OP. Eventually could hold a 10 minute plank and still had and he was just like, and the first time I met him, like for like a 20-minute consult, and he was just like, it can't be that my core is weak because like I can hold a 10-minute plank, god damn it. Like it can't be my core. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure your core muscle is strong. It probably just doesn't know how to work in time with your foot. And then we did like a few of
yeah,
those tests, and he was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, it's like the muscle's fine. It's just you just can't actually get your foot to talk to that muscle. But yeah, he kind of like he followed that path and he got to the point where he
yeah,
could hold a
yeah.
10-minute plank, which is insane.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
sorry. So I just wanted to add that I was really appreciating that someone is explaining the mechanism, because I knew the mechanism by studying that problem. So I knew that there is something with wrong kind of movements, and using the adductors more, and actually tearing continuously, stretching the pubic bone. So I
mm.
knew that. But so I was actually waiting for someone who knows the cause and who knows the mechanical thing. So I was
Well,
happy
it's
to
funny because
know.
you're already several steps ahead of people from that perspective because it's you would think like to me that's the logical place. If your pubic bone is like degenerating, then there must be extra load to cause that degeneration. But
Yeah.
even most professionals don't make that step. Usually it's kind of like, oh, you're overtraining, and it's like, well, what does overtraining mean? Like,
Yes.
I can overtrain and break my arm, yet my because I've been using it playing tennis, but then my chest is fine because it's not overtrained.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. You already took a step further than what most people will
No,
do with
but
that.
also for me, the evidence is that there are people who I know that trained much more than I did. So, and they had no OP. So I thought, okay, there must be something wrong in my body.
But yeah, something unique that causes it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
they must have some bad pattern for for that. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so you jump on the website, you read through the mess of information that I have up there, and then like we meet up and we have a consult. What's your headspace when you're jumping into that? In terms of like, did you have you heard of someone ever like being in your field ever heard of someone being treated by like by a physical therapist over Skype? How did you think the process would go, and then how was that different to what we actually did?
Well, actually, I had no. Well, I must say I didn't have much doubts that it wouldn't work. The only thing I was thinking of is, first of all, I needed to know what kind of methods you use. Yeah, because most of the therapists, of course, I knew they were always kind of touching me. Yeah, so it means
Yeah.
they were trying to kind of play with the sacroiliac joint, or doing some kind of the soft techniques or some other techniques, physical physiotherapy techniques. So I thought, what is your then approach if you cannot, see me, if you cannot move with my leg or whatever?
Yeah.
So that was my first kind of thinking. But of course, I knew that it must be something else because we are so far over different continents that it's probably really not possible. So I was keen to know what methods do you use. So I was very happy first of all that you use some methods when I can exercise. Yes, so it's not a rest. So it was great that I can do workouts, which was like, of course, a natural drag for everyone who is doing a lot of sport. If you have to rest, that's the worst punishment you can get, of course. So when I learned that actually you're doing workouts, and I don't know, in the first session you told me that there will be quite hard workouts when I will be really sweaty and doing some sports. So that was for me. Yes, this is two, we say like $2 in one smash. So it means I can have my treatment and the same time exercise. What it's ideal, great. So that was positive, and yeah. So I had really no doubts. I thought this is a method that probably is proven by you. Otherwise, you probably would not go out with that. So
Well, no, kind of hard to make a living if you are no good at what you do.
yes, exactly.
All right, so we have a few sessions, and I'm like throwing at you all these weird exercises. How was the rehab compared to sort of the type of training that you'd used to doing in the past? How did you find the exercises? Were they similar to things you'd done? Were they different? What was the, from an exercise perspective, the culture shock like?
Um, I think the sessions were very informative for me. It means I learned a lot of new stuff, a lot of new exercises. I knew, of course, some of them, like deadlifts and these things. I of course knew these are kind of classic, but there is a lot of exercises I didn't know, and I was happy to do them because, as I say, I was continuously having in mind that this is something that would improve my problem. Yes,
Hmm.
so that's why it even more helped for me to do that, and even more helped me to like them exercises. So yeah, so it was. I was looking forward for let's say new stuff, new step, new session, and yeah, I learned quite interesting, things, quite interesting exercises, and definitely overall, I have to say that I strengthened my body, my core, and even in general. Yeah, so it was really good.
Something that I really wanted to talk about in this was like, so there are a few there are a few different stages where you had like different little niggles and injuries come up, like as you were doing and learning new exercises. I remember there was the
Yeah.
back kind of thing, and
Oh
then I
yeah.
think there was another one as well in the middle, which to me is normal because I like that happens to everyone to some degree
Mm.
kind of thing. But yours were a little bit more intense, and were like strongly related to the technique and how you were doing things and your body's difficulty in so much as obviously you're moving one way your whole life, and then you're asking your body to move in a different way, and you're exposing these exercises where if your body doesn't make the adjustment, it can hurt itself. And I just
Yeah.
always thought like there was some very stubborn, like there were some things you picked up so quickly, like the deadlifting and things like that, the ab wheel, all those exercises you picked so quickly. And then there was some where your body was just very stubborn. It doesn't like creating a lot of momentum. It doesn't like
Yeah.
creating a lot of like quick, sharp burst power sort
Yes.
of things. And I was curious as to how you were able to stay so focused, even when your back was hurting, or even when things kind of didn't feel right and you'd hurt yourself a little bit. How you were able to stay focused in those moments and keep on the path.
Um, Okay, I think what really made me stay focused was my target. I mean, to get improve my OP and to get rid of it. So that injury with my back was, I think, really from these ball rotation exercises when I was, of course, not strong enough and not keeping my body, stable. So I really kind of moved with my lower back and was quite bad pain over the weekend. I remember I was barely moving,
Mm.
but then it went away quickly. I mean the next week after the injury was every day. I would say 50% better. So altogether it lasted like 5 days maybe. So it was okay. And the focus, yes, I think it was really my target, or my vision that I like to improve my OP, to get rid of this, get rid of this problem, to go through all stages to get to the last one. When I was actually seeing in a spreadsheet that there's already running, so there was like light in the tunnel for me. So yeah, that was the target.
And for people watching this, so that the exercise that Alice was doing was at about stage 8. Running is like the next stage after that, so it's like they're very close to each other, kind of thing in terms of of where they sit in the hierarchy. So for you, was it kind of like just this? I want to run. I know I've got to get through this to be able to run. There's no point in complaining or like thing. I have to get
Yeah.
through this. There's no benefit in complaining. I'm not going to get any better. No one's going to no one's going to magically get a wand and fix this. I've just got to find a way through it to the other side. Otherwise, I'm just not going to be able to run, and I have to be able to run.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I
That was my
think,
motivation.
yeah, I think that's such an important process sometimes because especially and I always try my best to explain the reason for doing everything as well. Because I never want people to be in a situation where they're like, oh, that exercise hurts, I don't want to do it, and just like avoid
Mhm.
it. Because it's like, well, no, if that exercise hurts, that's the exercise you have to do. That's the weakness. You got to
Mm.
pick on the weakness kind of thing. It's one thing to be like, cool, let me explain all that theory and let me show you why it has to be done.
Yeah.
It's another thing to be like, cool, I'm in pain, but I've still got to I got to figure this out. Like it's one thing to kind of like think, and that mental toughness, I think, is really important for people to have. And what it really is faith in yourself. It's going, well, if I just keep doing, if I stay focused, if I work through it, if I think about it, and I've watched the videos and I'm
Yes.
intelligent, I'll find the solution to this. I believe in my body. I'm just making a mistake now. It doesn't mean I'll always make a mistake, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that discipline is really important. And yeah, I was just really shocked because you didn't complain once about that. You even didn't even tell me. I asked you about it, and you were like, "Oh yeah, my back was kind of sore." And then I asked you some more, and you were like, "Oh yeah, I couldn't really move the day after it." And I was like, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
quite serious. You should tell me that straight away." But like, you didn't even complain about it. It was just like, "Man, I gotta get through this."
Yeah, I'd say, what was even quite um, what is still, quite important for me, that I immediately know when I'm doing something wrong, that I can feel some problem again in my groin. So it helps me to correct the exercises, for example, or correct any movement, anything when I'm running to the stairs. So I know that if I'm doing it wrongly, or I do some wrong step, I can the body immediately tells that this is not correct. So I'm correcting it continuously, which is again kind of motivating me, because I know that I'm doing quite a lot of things incorrectly, especially when you are tired, or when I'm tired. So then it quickly slips into wrong movements. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's even, I would say, motivational that I have to keep mind, to get improved, and I see the improvement. That's also important. I can see the improvement. Yeah. So at the beginning I was doing something, even the first three exercises wrong, and now I'm doing maybe the 25th wrong. Yes. So I can see that it's there's some there's some
Evolution.
evolution, or yeah. So it's also nice for me to see that. Yes.
It's like I really like what you say there about like it's like the pain doesn't have to be a bad thing then it can be this like constant reminder of how you can be better. It's just like a tap on the shoulder
Yeah.
being like, you can do this better, you're making a mistake, improve here, rather than it like, oh no, it's coming. Like the way it's treated is it's like you rest, right? Usually you rest, you get told to rest, then the pain goes away as you rest. Then you come
Hmm.
back and you're just like praying that when you're running that the pain's not going to come back. You're running and it's feeling okay. You go for one run, maybe it's okay. You're just like praying, oh, I don't want the pain to come back. And then, of course, because you've been resting, you've gotten weaker. The pain comes back after the second or the third run, and you feel worse. And it's this like horrible, like this pain is this horrible, debilitating thing. Instead of it being like oh, it's just a message to be like, hey, you need to correct this. You can do this better. You can make an improvement here. Which is, yeah, the best way to do it because it is. It's just a message that you can use. It's either positive or negative depending on how you use it to your advantage.
Sure. Yes. Yes. Definitely.
So taking on that train, and we'll jump a little bit here, but something that we would like just speaking about before, which is you're in that interesting point now, which I've been kind of bullying you about a little bit, about where you're running and you're feeling good, but you're starting to feel like funny sensations coming from the groins, and you don't know whether to push through that or to back off. I'd love for you to just yeah, like we were talking before, just yeah, give people your what you're going through at the moment and how that's interesting. So you're up to running 6Ks, you were saying. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, go for it, go
Obviously.
for it.
Yeah. I think it's natural. It's kind of self-protecting mindset because I don't want to go back to the stage where I started my treatment, of course. Yes, so it was after a year, and now it's actually almost the fifth month when I kind of stopped running, uh, and then it took some time before we contacted each other. So I don't want to go back to the stage where it was really the worst, at the beginning when we started our treatment. Uh, so when we went through all the stages and I started to run, of course, I felt something in my groin still, yes, especially, for example, in the sprints when I was doing sprints. So the first couple of steps, when you really hard, start and you have these fast starts, I usually, used my adductors and the muscles around the groin in a way that it caused some pain. It was not that sharp pain as in the beginning, or the character of the pain was not the same, but I felt there's something. So I thought, oh, I'm again tearing, my pubic bone. I'm again tearing my muscles, and it would because every kind of stretch or tear of the muscle takes time to heal, and you really have to kind of care about it when it happens. So you can't go over it with the other exercises. So I was feeling that I'm doing the same. Yes, I'm again tearing my muscles, which was not something that I wanted. So after we talk about it, and I heard your actually experience with other people, yes, and with this type of problems that almost everyone has this. So it made me a little bit more self-confident in this problem, that I can a little bit push through that. Yes, not that much, and maybe I took the approach of combination of this. It means to correct my movement, to really take care of it, maybe not to do it so hard, but still do it, but I push through a little bit. Yeah, so it was the combination of this thing, and of course the mind plays an important role. I just have to say to myself, just don't be so um, I know, cautious. Don't be so aware, or afraid of again injuring myself. Just go further, go for a run, and I have to say it helped, and nothing happened so far. So I was running, and I'm not feeling any worsening. So it's great. I mean, it's good, and I'm more and more believing in that I simply have to go and exercise and go for running, and not only being afraid that when I feel just a little bit of that pain, to stop, for example. Yeah, that I just simply have to continue.
It's such an important. I think especially like it's a little different for you. You're in the medical field, so you have I guess a sense of control. You know how to go about navigating the system. You know how to deal with illness. You've seen it before.
Yes.
You're dealing with it. But for a lot of people who just aren't, they don't know how to go about just other illnesses as well as OP. It's really isolating. I think OP. It's like you try to describe it to someone else, they have no idea what you're talking about. They have no experience of what it feels like for your pubic bone to hurt, or for your adductors to have this weird sore pain. And people are like, is it like a tear? Is it a strain? It's this really isolating experience. And it's funny because it's such a psychological blow to your head. You don't know what's happening. You're not getting anxious. You're always anxious. And it's this idea that like I really feel like people suffer a lot because they just don't have anyone to talk to about it or any way to understand what's happening in their body, and that just makes everything worse.
Yes.
And what I thought was really important about what you're pushing through at the moment is this idea of like you feel so strong and you feel so confident that you feel a little bit of pain, and you're not sure it's just your pain receptors or if you're running badly. You can't be 100% sure. You just haven't run 6 kilometers in a long period of time. Your body might just be freaking out. It's still
Yeah.
like you can feel so strong. You can deadlift a massive weight. You can be kettlebell swinging. You can be doing, you do some pretty extreme plyometrics at the end where you're jumping from side to side and sprinting and stuff. But
Yeah.
the minute you feel that pain, it's like like your brain goes back to the start, and it's just like you
Right.
can't help it. The fear is incredible because it's so debilitating. And I just felt like it's so important that people, anyone who's watching this who has OP, that's totally normal. Like you'll be going through this, you'll be going great guns, and then there'll be a day where you just pull up sore, and maybe you did something wrong, maybe you pushed too hard, maybe it just sore because it wants to be sore, and there's just no reason for it. But
Yeah.
it's totally normal. And the more important thing is that you have all the tools now. So that let's say you had a bad day and you did run too far and you hurt yourself, like you would know exactly what to do to get that under control. And it's not 5 months now; it's 3 or 4 days. You do your exercises, you get control of it again, and then you go back and you run.
Yes.
It's you're not out of control anymore.
Mhm. Exactly. Yes. I feel the same. Yes. I mean, um, I learned a lot of new stuff that helped me, uh, to help also this problem. I mean, I can go for running, and then if it's not completely okay, the next day I can do some workouts, and my experience shows so far that it improves the problem. Yes,
Mm,
so I don't need to. And also, my mind is in a different position now, so I know that I need some cross training, and this is exactly great cross training for this, and it heals the OP in the same time. So it's really nice. It's really good. So I can use it as a treatment and as a workout in the same time. So it's good.
awesome. All right. So I guess the last question that I generally ask people is if someone was in your situation or a similar situation, and just putting yourself in their place again, remember like some strange guy over the internet and just like, trying to decipher through all this information and these videos and stuff, what would be the thing that you want to tell them to try and like get across to them about the process of OP and what it takes to get better and just what you've been through doing this whole Skype thing and all of that? What would be the message you would impart on them?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say probably for every sportsman is important when you cannot do your sport, just to be patient. Yes, to be really very patient, because it's not a matter of 1 week, it's a matter of months. So is surprisingly longer even than I expected. Yes, so it's a long-term process in terms of um, probably stopping running. Yes, and so that's the patience, and in the same time, I would say that the motivation is very important, because people usually lose the motivation, and that's the problem. So they stop the process in the middle, because they don't have enough patience, they don't have the motivation, or they lose the motivation. So uh, probably everyone who is having this problem is, as you said, a person who's doing a lot of sport. So they probably want to get back to this to doing their favorite things. So they have to have the motivation to to reach the end of the process, and to get back to this to their favorite sports or exercises. So I would say these two things, the patience, the motivation, and of course, um, yeah, what helped me very much was uh, keeping in touch with you, because as I said, your program was giving me confidence that you saw a lot of people with the same problem, and it means that uh, you collect a lot of experience, unlike even some professionals who maybe saw one, two people in their life and even didn't diagnose them properly. So then for me is very precious when I can ask, when we can discuss, and I can ask you, for example, what was the experience of other people. Yes, so that was really good for me. That actually we could be in touch, and if there's some problem, I could mail you, and we can discuss it over the session. And yeah, it also helps to keep the motivation, yes, to keep the patients, not to give up in the middle when the pain maybe doesn't go away immediately after the first session or after the second session. You still have some problems, so it needs some time. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And for anyone watching this, hopefully, you can take a lot away from it. Yeah, OP is never fun to get through. But like, I mean, I think what you found through it as well is that it doesn't have to be a completely negative process, and you can learn a lot and become a lot stronger by getting over it as well. And yeah, hopefully that can be other people's experience as well. But thank you so much, Alice.
Thank you.
Cool.
Hey there. That video was probably really complicated. OP is really complicated. So why don't you let me explain it to you in person? Book in for a free 20-minute Skype consult. I can assess you, tell you what OP is, you can ask me as many questions as you like, we can go into detail about the Skype process and how it works, and we can start working on the things that you need to do to fix your OP and get back to your life. So please, book in for a free session, it's completely obligation free, and let's get started.